Hi, I'm James Howell. I am surprised, humbled to be the Western North Carolina Conference's candidate for the episcopacy. I'm mostly intrigued to see what God's going to do for our church in the near future here. So I hope this video will give us an opportunity to get acquainted and hopefully befriend one another.
James was born in Savannah, Georgia, at the Hunter Air Force Base Hospital. His father flew in World War II and the Berlin Airlift, instilling in James dreams of flying and travel, which in his ministry has taken him to preach and serve in places like Liberia, Lithuania, Haiti, and Brazil.
So I'm awed by the work that God is doing around the world and the way it stimulates what we try to do then back home. The friends I have been blessed to get to know around the world, they just inspire me, and they remind all of us what's at the heart of following Jesus, loving Jesus.
James is one of the most visionary leaders that I know. He brings with him a wealth of knowledge, a deep understanding of people, and a tremendous sense of compassion. I really admire the way that he carries with him this passion, this thirst for social justice, for creating beloved community wherever he is. It's a privilege to know him as a friend, as a colleague, as a mentor, and he's someone that has shaped my life as a minister quite profoundly. I wouldn't be who I am today without his guidance, his shepherding, and his leadership.
He's also led many pilgrimages to the Holy Land, in the footsteps of Paul and tracing the life of St. Francis of Assisi. James has one older sister, Jan, who was, as a child, a great baseball player and a musician. She taught school and is famous for taking in stray animals. Now she's the organist at Travelers Rest United Methodist in South Carolina. The strongest spiritual influence in their childhood came from their paternal grandparents, a rural mail carrier and a homemaker in the small town of Oakboro, North Carolina.
Mom and Papa Howell were just wonderful people. They loved me so much. There was a time in my life, things going on in my nuclear family that were hard, divorce and everything. They were a safe haven for me. But then they were so holy and prayerful, and they showed me what intimacy with God could look like. Yeah, I went off to college. I drifted away. I didn't think about God much. I was studying chemical engineering at the University of South Carolina, but I had some friends who kept inviting me to church. They invited me over and over and over. And finally I went. I'm so grateful. I know the importance of the personal invite. So I went and I discovered a great community of love, and I found that I loved Jesus, and I promised him then that I would do anything that he needed me to do. Now, at that time, I wasn't thinking about budgets or committees or denominations or even preaching sermons or anything. I just wanted to do anything that Jesus wanted me to do. And that's why I'm here right now, is that I've tried to remember that. And in this process, I'm trying to ask, what does God want me to do with the rest of my life for the church?
Responding to that calling, James went to Duke Divinity School with Tom Wall, who became a campus minister. James's first church out of seminary was a very small rural church, Wesley Chapel, where he still has many friends he loves to this day. During that time, he met and married Lisa, daughter of a United Methodist pastor. A social worker, she worked for hospice and then for Charlotte Family Housing, where she empowered teams of laity from churches to support homeless families in their transitions toward stability. Now she is a community activist, leading efforts in Charlotte to achieve educational equity. They have 3 adult children. Sarah is United Methodist pastor in Winston-Salem, where she has created and has grown a significant alternative worship community called Roots Revival that is reaching a wide variety of people across the social and economic spectrum.
My daughter Sarah and so many young clergy that I know just get me so very excited because they dream these holy, bold visions for where the church is going. It's not clinging on to this old institution, but it's seeing what new thing, what's the church going to morph into? It's like that grass that pops up out of the cracks in the sidewalk. I am so excited about the future of our church and what it's going to look like, the surprises that are in store.
Grace teaches art for UMAR, our United Methodist agency that runs group homes and programs for mentally and physically challenged adults. One of James's favorite activities each year is leading her art students in Christmas carols together. James' son Noah works at King's Kitchen, a nonprofit restaurant in Charlotte that is also an inner city ministry working with people facing homelessness and addiction.
I'm so fortunate to have a family that loves me and cares about God's world. And, we don't always agree on things. And for me, that's the simplest model for something that's really important for church. We disagree about things, but we love each other. We stick together. This has been a really important thing for me in my life and ministry. I've tried to make friends across the theological spectrum, befriend people who don't agree with each other on things. It's just the most important witness for the church right now is to say to the world out there that we don't mirror society's rancor, but we're going to love. We're going to listen to each other. We're going to stay together as Christ's body.
James has a love for the scriptures, which was kindled in him first from his grandparents and then from his seminary professor and lifelong mentor, Professor Roland Murphy.
Father Murphy was just such a great teacher. He was so passionate about the scriptures. He'd stand in front of the class, he would read something, and he would just make these guttural sounds like, It's like a bear chomping down on a piece of meat. I mean, I think if our church has any hope, right, it's that we'll be that devoted, that passionate about the scripture, and that we'll want to talk about God with great excitement. Dorothy Day said, if I've achieved anything in life, it's because I've not been embarrassed to talk about God.
I was privileged to serve on staff with James Howell for 6 years, and through that time he became one of my dearest friends, one of my closest mentors in ministry and in faith. When I think about his leadership, what really stands out for me is that in a time when church means lots of different things to different people, and there are all kinds of expectations about what church will be and what church will do, James always helped us keep the focus on God, worshiping God, thinking deeply about God, serving God, and loving God boldly and passionately by serving and loving others in our community. And his gifts, those gifts are really the kind of gifts the church really needs. I know that James loves being a pastor. He loves it dearly, and I'm just grateful that he is open to the call of God and to the call of the church at this really important time.
After Wesley Chapel, James was appointed to the dying Plaza United Methodist Church in Charlotte, which was struggling to find its place in a dramatically changing neighborhood. The congregation integrated during his years there and found creative ways to reach out to the community.
James is a bridge builder, he is a visionary leader, and he keeps his hands on the pulse of our brothers and sisters on the margins of our society.
Bishop Bevel Jones then sent James to Davidson, a small town about 30 minutes away from Charlotte. In 12 years, that little church grew from 400 members to well over 3,000. Worship attendance increased sevenfold, and they raised millions of dollars to complete 3 major building projects. Then Bishop Charlene Kammerer appointed James to the Myers Park Church in Charlotte. In his 13 years there, membership has grown from 3,700 to 5,300. Worship attendance has doubled, and the range and scope of community engagement have grown logarithmically. James is known around the country as a great preacher and teaches preaching as an adjunct at Duke Divinity School. He has a knack for reaching young singles, young families with children, and especially those who have never been in church or have been hurt by the church. He believes United Methodism has the best message for today's world and culture.
So at least once a week, I pinch myself and say, you are so lucky to get to do this for a living, right? I mean, it's work that really matters. We get to talk about God, get to be with people at the most important moments of their lives. Think about the lay people that I've known in the 4 churches that I've served. I mean, they're so wonderful and amazing and devoted and fun, and I'd love them. The staff people that I've gotten to work with, I mean, I'd love them. They've been so wonderful to work with. Really the greatest privilege in all of that, though, I think, are the young clergy that I've gotten to be with.
One of the things I most appreciate about James is his passion for mentoring young clergy leaders. Several of them have shared with me how surprised and grateful they are that the senior pastor of Myers Park United Methodist Church would take time to share with them his experience and his wisdom, as well as to affirm and support them in their ministry settings. James is helping to form the next generation of clergy leaders, but he's also being informed in the emerging nature of the church from them. For me, these are 2 important characteristics and priorities of a bishop.
James has an incredible ability of helping a young pastor see the big picture and then identify the precise places in which the Spirit is at work.
He's willing to spot somebody who wants to do something. He's willing to take a risk on letting them do it, giving them room to fail or succeed, following up with care and attention, and I'm amazed at the way he mentors as part of ministry. I've been privileged to be one of those people, and it's a great source of hope for our whole church, for me, that he might take on that kind of leadership role for the rest of our sake. We need leadership now that's intellectually rigorous, that loves Jesus, that wants to serve the world, and I'm hopeful he'll embody that leadership for the rest of us.
He is a great encourager and believes leaders should and can create a culture of gratitude. He handwrites a minimum of 3 thank you notes every day and invites everyone around him to do the same. Everyone who knows James admires his work ethic, his productivity, his energy, and his accessibility. His door is always open, he answers all emails promptly, and loves being connected to as many people as possible, including youth and children who love him.
I love you, Pastor James. Thank you for baptizing me and Alexander. I love you a lot, and you're my favorite.
What a campaign doesn't really show is your weakness, right? We don't show you a long list of mistakes and dumb things, that James Howell has done. I have a friend who asked me the question, are you weak enough to be a bishop? I like that a lot. You see, it's not about always having the right answers and knowing what to do. It's that God uses, it's about God. It's God's mercy. God uses broken people. God uses wounded people. I know for me, if God's done anything good through me, it's not my smarts or my hard work or clever ideas, but it's through that wounded place that God really works. That's where God's mercy comes alive. I love, when it comes to leadership, I love this prayer in 2 Chronicles chapter 20. The people are rallying to battle, and then they come to King Jehoshaphat, and he leads them, and he makes the sacrifice, and then he prays this prayer, which is, Lord, we do not know what to do, but our eyes are upon you. I just love that. We don't always know what to do, but we're going to keep our eyes on the Lord, because it's His church. We belong to Him, and if we do that, all will be well. All will be great joy.
One of James's favorite phrases is a simple one. Whenever he sees the Spirit at work, be it just a little seed being planted or the realization of lots of labor, his eyes would glisten and he'd say, it's happening, it's happening. Literally like a giddy school kid. He still has the ability to recognize and rejoice with awe and wonder the work of the Spirit.
I had the great good fortune of working in my first years of ministry as an associate to James Howell. He was inspiring and supportive and encouraging, and has very much become the model of ministry that I've looked to ever since. In fact, as I've grown into increasing levels of responsibility and run into various thorny leadership issues, I'll often think, now, what would James do in this situation? Or I'll pick up the phone and call him, and he always has a wise word to offer. Outside of my immediate family, there's been nobody more influential to me than James. I love the United Methodist Church, and I believe in its future. And I think for us to be all that we can be as a church, we need mentor bishops like James Howell.